In this video, I want to talk about CSV files in F# and in particular how you read CSV files. So when it comes to the way we read CSV files in F#, there is one peculiarity that I think you should be aware of. This is something we noticed ourselves at work as we were handling these CSV files, and it's a bit surprising perhaps if you're not unfamiliar with the functionality of this method. So in order to read a CSV file, you would use the F# data package like I've already imported, and you would read a file according to the following syntax. So you would define a CSV file. So once you read these, you get an instantiation of the file itself. So you have a file object, and what you use for that is CSV file, like so, .load. And then in here, you would provide whatever file name you have. So let me just copy something over where I have a locally prepared CSV file for this example. So we paste that in there like so, and this we should be able to execute. Now let me execute this, and then in the meanwhile we can talk about this method. So the method here accepts a number of arguments. This is sort of the simplest way to use this, this particular method. But if I paste the entire signature in here, what we will see is the following. So we have a mandatory parameter first, the URI, that's what we provided here, so the location to our specific file. Then we have a number of optional parameters afterwards. So we have separators, that tells you how the different elements in your CSV file are separated. Then you have this quote parameter, and this is the interesting one that we're going to talk about in just a second. Let me just skip it for now. And then we have a few other ones. So whether it has headers in this file, whether it should ignore errors in the reading, whether it should skip rows, or which encoding you're using, etc., etc. So you can define a number of aspects here, but the one I want to focus on is the one called quote. Now, what the quote parameter allows you to do is provide specific parameters in your file that function as quotation marks. And what that means is if there is some separator token in your file, so let's say you have a CSV file separated by commas. If you have commas in this file, but they're surrounded by quotes, then the program is not going to take them into account. So more specifically, if I paste part of the documentation of this method here, we can see that to escape the separator characters, the quote character will be used. And the important part to realize here is this part. So it defaults to this character right here, meaning that if you have not specified anything in the load function like so, and then you happen to have these quotation marks in here, then they will cause the program to neglect any separator characters that are contained between two of these quotation marks. So what you need to do is, if you have these kinds of quotations in your file, you need to change this quotation character. And the interesting thing here, which I think is something that could be enhanced with this functionality, is there's no way to say we don't want a quotation symbol whatsoever. So you have to assign it to something. Now, you can assign it to something very unusual, so that it's unlikely to occur in your CSV file, but you should still be aware that there needs to be a character that's going to be treated as the quotation character.